I think I didn't do anything wrong, just wanted to feel young and spontaneous before tying myself down forever. But when the courier handed me those thick, official-looking documents, I realized my fun challenge had turned into the end of my marriage before it even began. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The morning light filtered through our bedroom curtains as I watched Elias get dressed for work, his methodical movements as predictable as clockwork. 35 years old and already settling into the routine of an old man. I stretched lazily in bed, my mind already drifting to the day ahead, and to Jasper. "You were out late again last night," Elias said quietly, not looking at me as he buttoned his shirt. "Third time this week." I rolled my eyes, pulling the covers up to my chin. "It's work stress, El. The Henderson claim is a nightmare and we're all putting in extra hours." The lie rolled off my tongue so easily now. "You wouldn't understand. Your engineering projects don't have the same kind of pressure." He paused, his reflection catching mine in the dresser mirror. "Maybe we should postpone the wedding. You seem distant lately." My heart skipped, but not from guilt, from irritation. Here he was, trying to control me again, just when I was finally feeling alive. "Don't be paranoid," I snapped. "God, Elias, you're making me feel trapped before we're even married. Can't I have a life outside of this house?" Our 8-year-old son Noah appeared in the doorway, his school backpack slung over one shoulder. "Why is Mommy always gone now?" he asked, his voice small. I felt a flicker of something, maybe guilt, but pushed it away. "Mommy's just working hard, sweetheart. Go eat your cereal." Elias kissed Noah's forehead and squeezed my shoulder before leaving. I waited until I heard his car pull out of the driveway before reaching for my phone. "Can't wait to see you today," I texted Jasper. "Last night was incredible." His response came quickly. "You're dangerous, Araminta Vale. I like it." At the office, Jasper's desk was strategically positioned where I could see him throughout the day. At 29, he had this effortless charm that made me feel like I was in my 20s again, instead of 32, and weighed down by responsibilities. When he suggested we grab drinks after work to celebrate surviving another Monday, I didn't hesitate. "You know," he said later, his fingers tracing the rim of his wine glass, "there's something exciting about this. The secrecy, the risk." "It's just a challenge," I said, surprising myself with my honesty. "One last adventure before I become Mrs. Turner forever." "A fun challenge," he agreed, his eyes sparkling with mischief. That night, I told Elias I was working late again. My mother, Maggie, called while I was getting ready to leave. "Oh, honey, you're just having a little wild phase," she laughed when I hinted at my restlessness. "Every woman deserves to feel desired. Elias should be grateful he's marrying someone so spirited." My father Richard's voice was more cautious in the background. "Maybe she should focus on her family," I heard him say. "Don't listen to your father," Mom continued. "He's forgotten what it's like to feel young." I slipped out of the house after Noah was asleep, my heart racing with anticipation. Jasper's apartment was across town, and as I climbed the stairs to his door, I felt more alive than I had in years. We spent hours talking, laughing, and losing ourselves in each other. I convinced myself this wasn't really cheating. It was just exploring who I was before committing to forever. "You're incredible," Jasper whispered as I got dressed to leave. "Elias doesn't know how lucky he is." "He doesn't appreciate what he has," I replied, already crafting the story I'd tell if anyone asked about my whereabouts. As I walked to my car in the dimly lit parking lot, I had the strangest feeling someone was watching me. A figure in a dark sedan seemed to shift as I passed, but when I looked directly, I saw nothing. Paranoia, I told myself. Just guilt playing tricks. I drove home feeling triumphant, like I'd reclaimed some essential part of myself. This was my choice, my freedom, my fun challenge. What could possibly go wrong? The engagement dinner was supposed to be a celebration, but I could feel the tension crackling around our table at Romano's. Elias sat beside me, polite but distant, while his family made stilted conversation. His mother Emily kept shooting me pointed looks, and his brother Paul barely acknowledged my presence. "So, Araminta," Emily said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "Elias says you've been working very late lately. How dedicated of you." I smiled tightly. Someone has to handle the difficult cases. Not everyone can work 9 to 5 like some people. I glanced meaningfully at Elias, who was methodically cutting his steak. My sister Lauren raised an eyebrow. "That's an interesting way to put it, Mint." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," Lauren said, but her tone suggested otherwise. "Just seems like you're putting a lot of energy into work, right before your wedding." I felt cornered, so I went on the offensive. "At least I'm passionate about something. Some people are content to just coast through life, never taking any risks or feeling truly alive." I looked directly at Elias as I said it. He finally looked up from his plate. "Risk can be overrated," he said quietly. "Sometimes stability is more valuable than excitement." "God, listen to yourself," I laughed, but it came out harsher than I intended. "You sound like you're 60, not 35. No wonder I caught myself before finishing the sentence, but the damage was done. "No wonder you what?" Lauren asked sharply. "Nothing. I just mean, no wonder I need to find stimulation elsewhere, intellectually speaking." My mother Maggie jumped in to defend me. "Araminta has always been spirited. That's what makes her special. Some men would be grateful to have such a vibrant partner." "Grateful," Emily repeated, her voice ice cold. Interesting choice of words. Noah, who had been quietly coloring on his kid's menu, looked up. "Why is everyone mad?" "No one's mad, sweetheart," I said quickly, but my phone buzzed with a text. I glanced down and felt my blood freeze. "You really think secrets stay buried?" The number was unknown. I looked around the table, my heart pounding, but everyone seemed focused on their conversations. Who could have sent this? And what did they know? "Excuse me," Elias said, standing abruptly. "I need some air." He walked away from the table, and I watched him go with a growing sense of unease. When had he become so calm, so controlled? The Elias I knew would have argued with me, demanded explanations. This quiet version was somehow more unsettling. "Well," Emily said, standing as well, "this has been illuminating. Paul, would you mind driving me home?" As Elias's family departed, leaving me with my parents, Noah, and Lauren, I tried to regain control of the narrative. "They've always been cold to me," I said to my mother. "Emily never thought I was good enough for her precious son." "Maybe they have a point," Lauren said quietly. "Excuse me?" "I said maybe they have a point. You've been acting strange lately, Mint. Secretive. And the way you just spoke to Elias." She shook her head. "That was cruel, even for you." "I'm not cruel," I protested. "I'm just honest about what I need. If Elias can't handle that, maybe we shouldn't be getting married." "Maybe you shouldn't be," Lauren agreed, gathering her purse. "Come on, Noah. Let's get you home." As we drove back to the house in tense silence, I kept thinking about that text. Someone knew something, but what? And more importantly, who? Elias was already home when we arrived, sitting in his study with the door closed. I could see him through the glass, staring at his computer screen with an expression I couldn't read. I tucked Noah into bed, kissing his forehead as he asked, "Are you and Daddy getting divorced like Tommy's parents?" "Of course not, baby. Daddy and I just had a little disagreement. Everything's fine." But as I said it, I wasn't sure I believed it myself. The office felt different the next morning. Conversations stopped when I walked by, and I caught several coworkers exchanging meaningful glances. Jasper was notably absent from his usual flirtatious behavior, barely making eye contact when I passed his desk. "Jasper," I whispered during my lunch break, cornering him by the copy machine. "We need to talk." He looked around nervously. "I don't think that's a good idea, Araminta. People are starting to notice things." "What kind of things?" "Sarah from accounting asked me yesterday if we were working closely together on any projects, and Marcus made some comment about you staying late a lot." He ran a hand through his hair. "Maybe we should cool it for a while." Panic fluttered in my chest. "You're overreacting. No one knows anything." But even as I said it, I noticed the way conversations died when I approached the break room, the way my supervisor Linda looked at me with barely concealed disapproval. At home, things were no better. Elias moved through the house like a ghost, polite but distant. He helped Noah with homework, made dinner, handled bedtime routine, all without really talking to me beyond basic logistics. "We need to discuss the wedding plans," I said one evening, trying to force normalcy. "Do we?" he replied, not looking up from his book. "The caterer needs final numbers by Friday." "Then give them to her." His calm was maddening. Where was the fight, the jealousy, the demand for explanations? This quiet acceptance was somehow worse than anger would have been. Lauren called that night, her voice sharp with concern. "I talked to Noah's teacher today. She says he's been withdrawn lately, not participating in class discussions. She asked if there were any changes at home." "There aren't any changes," I lied. "He's probably just tired." "Araminta, what's going on? And don't give me some bullshit about work stress. I've known you for 30 years. "Nothing's going on. Everyone's being paranoid." "Am I? Because Mom mentioned you've been finding yourself lately, and you've been acting like a completely different person. Secretive, defensive, cruel to Elias." "I'm not cruel to Elias. I'm just not willing to pretend I'm happy when I'm not." "So, you're not happy? Then why are you getting married?" The question hung in the air. Why was I getting married? Because it was expected? Because Noah needed stability? Because I was afraid of being alone? "It's complicated," I said finally. "No, it's not. Either you want to be married to Elias or you don't. But stringing him along while you figure it out isn't fair to anyone, especially Noah." I hung up on her, furious at her judgment, at everyone's judgment. Why couldn't they understand that I was just trying to feel alive again? That night, I deleted all my text messages with Jasper, cleared my browser history, and made sure there was no digital trail of my activities. I was being careful, covering my tracks. The next morning, I found a neat stack of papers on the kitchen counter. Printed emails, time-stamped photos, bank statements highlighting unexplained charges. My blood turned to ice as I flipped through them. There were screenshots of text conversations I thought I'd deleted, photos of me and Jasper at restaurants, at his apartment building, in his car, credit card receipts for drinks and hotels I'd paid for with our joint account. Even security camera footage from Jasper's building showing me coming and going at various times. At the bottom of the stack was a single note in Elias's careful handwriting. "We need to talk, tonight, after Noah's asleep." My hands shook as I gathered the papers. How had he gotten all this? How long had he been collecting evidence? And what did he plan to do with it? I called in sick to work and spent the day in a panic, trying to figure out how to explain everything. But every excuse I came up with sounded hollow, even to me. The evidence was damning, comprehensive, and undeniably real. When Elias came home that evening, he was carrying a manila envelope. He set it on the counter next to where I'd found the papers and looked at me with eyes that held no warmth, no forgiveness, no hope. "I think you know what we need to discuss," he said quietly. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I realized I might have made a mistake I couldn't talk my way out of. "I can explain everything," I started, but Elias held up a hand to stop me. "No," he said, his voice eerily calm. "You can't. because there's no explanation that makes this okay. We were sitting in our living room, the manila envelope between us on the coffee table like a loaded weapon. Noah was upstairs, hopefully asleep and unaware of the bomb about to explode his world. It was just a mistake, I tried again. A moment of weakness before the wedding. It didn't mean anything. Elias picked up one of the printed photos, me and Jasper kissing outside his apartment building, the timestamp showing it was taken just 3 days ago. This doesn't look like a moment of weakness. This looks like a relationship. It's not a relationship, it's just fun, a challenge to myself. The words sounded pathetic even to me, but I pressed on. I was feeling trapped, scared about the wedding. I just needed to feel young again. So you decided to cheat on me. For months. It wasn't months. The credit card statements go back to February, Araminta. It's October. That's 8 months of lies. I stared at him, trying to process how methodical he'd been, how long he'd been gathering evidence while I thought I was being clever. You've been spying on me? I've been protecting myself and my son. Your son? He's my son too. Is he? Elias leaned forward, and for the first time, I saw real emotion flicker across his face. Because a mother who cares about her son doesn't sneak around, lie to his face, and destabilize his home for a fun challenge. I felt tears building, but they felt calculated rather than genuine. I never meant for this to happen. I love you. I love Noah. Can't we work through this? Elias stood up and walked to the window, staring out at our quiet suburban street. I found the first evidence in March. A receipt for drinks at a bar you said you'd never been to. I told myself there was an innocent explanation. He turned back to me, and his expression was devastating in its resignation. I kept finding things, little inconsistencies, strange charges, changes in your behavior. I started documenting everything, hoping I was wrong. You were investigating me like I was some kind of criminal. You were lying to me like I was some kind of fool. The manila envelope seemed to pulse with menace between us. I gestured toward it. What's in there? Your future, he said simply, and handed it to me. Inside were legal documents, petition for dissolution of marriage, request for temporary custody, motion for exclusive use of family residence. The words swam on the page as I realized what I was looking at. You're divorcing me. I filed this afternoon. But we're not even married yet. We are married, Araminta. We've been married for 2 years. The ceremony next month was supposed to be a renewal of vows, remember? A celebration for our families since we eloped to Vegas. I had forgotten somehow, in all my self-justification about one last adventure before marriage. We were already married. I had been cheating on my husband, not my fiancé. You can't take Noah from me. I'm not taking him from you. I'm protecting him from the chaos you've created. The school counselor says he's been acting out, his grades are slipping, and he's asked 3 different teachers if his parents are getting divorced. He's 8 years old. He doesn't understand. He understands that his mother is never home anymore, that she lies about where she's going, and that his parents fight constantly. He understands more than you think. I sank onto the couch, the legal documents scattered around me. What do you want from me? Nothing. I want you to leave. This is my house, too. Actually, it's not. The deed is in my name only. We bought it before we got married with money from my inheritance. Check with your lawyer if you don't believe me. I stared at him, seeing a stranger. When had quiet, predictable Elias become this calculated, prepared adversary? I'll fight this, I said, trying to summon some defiance. I'll tell everyone how you drove me away with your boring, controlling behavior. I'll make sure they know you're using Noah as a weapon. Elias picked up his phone and played a recording. My own voice filled the room. It's just a challenge to myself. I just needed to feel young again. He's so boring. No wonder I needed to find excitement elsewhere. I've been recording our conversations for weeks, he said, just in case you tried to rewrite history. I felt the walls closing in, my carefully constructed narrative crumbling. You bastard. Maybe. But I'm a bastard who's protecting his son from a mother who put her own selfish desires ahead of his well-being. I'm not a bad mother. You told Noah last week that Daddy was overreacting about your work schedule. You tried to make an 8-year-old choose sides in a conflict he doesn't understand. What would you call that? I had no answer. The room felt like it was spinning, and I gripped the arm of the couch to steady myself. I want you out of the house by tomorrow night, Elias continued. You can take your personal belongings. Everything else stays here for Noah's stability. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know. Maybe Jasper's place? Though I hear he's been avoiding you at work lately. The casual cruelty of that observation cut deep. Jasper had indeed been distant, probably realizing that our fun challenge was about to become very unfun very quickly. I'll call my lawyer, I said weakly. You should. But Araminta? He paused at the doorway. The evidence is overwhelming, and I have witnesses. Your best bet is to cooperate with the custody arrangement and try to maintain some kind of relationship with your son. After he left, I sat alone in the living room that would no longer be mine, surrounded by the wreckage of my choices. The fun challenge had become a nightmare, and I was finally beginning to understand the true cost of my adventure. My lawyer, Patricia Hendricks, spread the documents across her conference table with the grim efficiency of a coroner performing an autopsy. This is bad, Araminta. Very bad. How bad? She picked up a photo of me and Jasper entering a hotel together. Your husband has been building a case against you for months. Credit card records, photographs, witness statements, recorded conversations. He even has testimony from your son's teacher about changes in Noah's behavior. I slumped in the leather chair. Can't we argue that he violated my privacy by recording me? In this state, only one party needs to consent to recording a conversation. Since he was part of every conversation he recorded, it's perfectly legal. Patricia flipped through more pages. He's also got financial records showing you used marital funds for your activities. Hotels, restaurants, gifts. That's going to play very poorly with a judge. What about custody? Patricia's expression grew even more serious. He's asking for primary physical custody with supervised visitation for you. Given the evidence of your affair and its impact on Noah, a judge might very well grant it. Supervised visitation? Like I'm some kind of criminal? Like you're someone who put their own desires ahead of their child's well-being. That's how the court will see it. I left Patricia's office in a daze and drove to my mother's house. Maggie greeted me with her usual indulgent smile, but it faded when she saw my face. Oh, honey, what's wrong? I collapsed on her floral couch and told her everything. About Jasper, about the evidence, about Elias filing for divorce. That vindictive bastard, she said immediately. How dare he spy on you and then use it against you? You made one little mistake, and he's trying to destroy your life. It wasn't exactly little, Mom. Nonsense. Men have been having affairs for centuries without losing their children. You have one moment of weakness, and suddenly you're an unfit mother. It's sexist bullshit. My father, Richard, was less supportive when he came home from work. Jesus Christ, Araminta, what were you thinking? Don't you start too, Dad. Start what? Pointing out that you blew up your marriage and traumatized your son for some office fling? He shook his head in disgust. That boy worships you, and you threw it all away for what? Some excitement? Richard, don't be so harsh, Maggie protested. She's been under a lot of stress. We're all under stress. Most of us don't handle it by cheating on our spouses. I spent the next few days staying at my parents' house, trying to figure out my next move. Elias had changed the locks on our house and informed me through his lawyer that I could collect my belongings with 24 hours' notice. Lauren visited on the third day, her expression carefully neutral. I talked to Elias yesterday. I don't want to hear it. He's worried about Noah. The kid's been asking when you're coming home. Guilt twisted in my stomach. I'm fighting for custody. I'll get him back. Will you? Because from what I understand, the evidence against you is pretty damning. Lauren sat down across from me. Mint, I love you, but you fucked up, badly, and now Noah's the one paying the price. I didn't mean for this to happen. But it did happen. And instead of taking responsibility, you're sitting here letting Mom convince you that you're the victim. She leaned forward. You want to know what I think? I think you should focus on being the best mother you can be with whatever custody you get, instead of trying to destroy Elias out of spite. He's trying to destroy me. He's protecting his son. There's a difference. That night, I called Noah. Elias answered the phone. Can I talk to him? I asked. Of course. But Araminta, please don't try to turn him against me. He's confused and scared enough already. Noah's voice was small when he came on the line. Mommy, when are you coming home? I don't know, baby. Daddy and I are working some things out. Did I do something wrong? My heart broke. No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. This is between Mommy and Daddy. Tommy's parents got divorced because they didn't love each other anymore. Do you and Daddy not love each other anymore? I closed my eyes, searching for words that wouldn't be lies but wouldn't traumatize him further. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that hurt the people they love. I made some mistakes, and now we're trying to figure out how to fix things. Are you going to live somewhere else forever? I don't know yet. But no matter what happens, I love you very much, okay? After I hung up, I sat in my childhood bedroom and finally allowed myself to cry. Not for my marriage, which I now realized had been dying long before I met Jasper. Not for my reputation, which was probably beyond repair. But for Noah, who didn't deserve any of this, and for the relationship with my son that I might have destroyed forever. The next morning, Patricia called with an update. Elias's lawyer wants to schedule mediation. They're willing to discuss a more generous custody arrangement if you're cooperative about the financial settlement. What kind of arrangement? Joint legal custody, but primary physical with him. You'd get Noah every other weekend and one evening a week, plus alternating holidays? That's not enough. It's more than you might get if this goes to trial. The judge could very well order supervised visitation only, especially given the evidence about Noah's emotional distress. I stared out my parents' kitchen window at the backyard where I'd played as a child, where Noah had played just a few months ago during a family barbecue. Everything had seemed so simple then. What if I fight it? Then you'll likely lose everything, spend a fortune on legal fees, and put Noah through a traumatic custody battle. Is that really what you want? I didn't answer, because I honestly didn't know anymore what I wanted, except for everything to go back to the way it was before I decided I needed a fun challenge. The courthouse steps were slick with October rain as I climbed toward what would either be my salvation or my final defeat. 6 months had passed since Elias filed for divorce. 6 months of mediation attempts, legal maneuvering, and watching my relationship with Noah deteriorate from a distance. Inside the family court, I sat beside Patricia while Elias and his lawyer, Paul Turner, yes, his own brother, occupied the table across from us. The irony wasn't lost on me that my husband had enlisted his family to help destroy me legally, while my own family remained divided on whether I deserved support or condemnation. Judge Margaret Chen reviewed the case file with the methodical attention of someone who had seen every variation of human failure. This is a dissolution of marriage with contested custody, she began. I've reviewed all submitted evidence, witness statements, and the court-appointed child psychologist's report. My stomach clenched. Dr. Sarah Martinez had interviewed Noah 3 times over the past month. and each session had left my son more withdrawn and confused. The last time I'd seen him, he'd asked why he had to talk to strangers about our family, and I'd had no good answer. "Mrs. Turner," Judge Chen addressed me directly, "I understand you wish to contest the custody arrangement proposed by your husband." I stood on shaky legs. "Yes, Your Honor. I believe I'm being unfairly punished for mistakes I've made. I love my son, and I'm a good mother." The evidence suggests otherwise. Judge Chen lifted a thick folder. "Credit card statements showing you used marital funds to conduct an extramarital affair. Photographs documenting your activities over an 8-month period. Recorded conversations where you attempted to manipulate your 8-year-old child into taking sides in your marital dispute." Each word hit like a physical blow. "I was confused, Your Honor. Going through a difficult time. I never meant to hurt anyone. Yet you did hurt someone. Multiple people, in fact." She opened another file. "Dr. Martinez's report indicates that Noah has been experiencing anxiety, difficulty sleeping, and problems concentrating at school. His teacher reports that he frequently asks if his parents are getting divorced and whether he'll have to choose between them." I glanced at Elias, hoping to see some flicker of the man who once loved me, who might show mercy for our son's sake. But his face was stone, his attention fixed on the judge. "Furthermore," Judge Chen continued, "the evidence shows a pattern of deception, manipulation, and prioritizing personal desires over parental responsibilities. Mrs. Turner, you told your son that his father was overreacting to your behavior. You attempted to gaslight family members who questioned your actions. You deleted evidence and coached your affair partner to lie about the nature of your relationship." Patricia squeezed my arm, but I could feel her resignation. We both knew how this was going to end. "Your Honor," I tried one last time, "I've learned from my mistakes. I'm in therapy now, working on myself. I just want the chance to be a good mother to my son." "You had that chance, Mrs. Turner. For 8 years, you had that chance. Instead, you chose to pursue what you yourself described as a fun challenge, while your child's world fell apart around him." Judge Chen closed the files and looked directly at me. "Based on the evidence presented, I'm granting primary physical custody to Mr. Turner. Mrs. Turner, you will have supervised visitation every other Saturday for 4 hours, with the possibility of expanded visitation after 6 months if you complete court-mandated counseling and demonstrate consistent, appropriate behavior. Supervised visitation." The words echoed in my head as the courtroom seemed to tilt around me. I was going to see my son 4 hours a week, with a stranger watching my every interaction to make sure I didn't damage him further. "Additionally," the judge continued, "the marital home and primary assets will remain with Mr. Turner to ensure stability for the child. Mrs. Turner will be responsible for her own legal fees and will pay child support based on her current income." I sank into my chair as the reality hit me. I was losing everything: my son, my home, my financial security, my reputation. All for what Jasper had called a fun challenge, and what I had convinced myself was just finding myself. As we filed out of the courtroom, I caught sight of Noah in the hallway with Emily Turner, his grandmother. He looked small and lost in his school clothes, and when he saw me, his face lit up with hope. "Mommy!" He started toward me, but Emily gently held him back. "Not right now, sweetheart," she said softly. "Mommy has to talk to some people first." Elias approached Noah and knelt down to his level. "Hey, buddy, how was school?" "Okay. Can Mommy come home now?" I watched Elias's face crumple slightly before he composed himself. "Not today, Noah, but you'll see her soon, okay?" "This weekend?" "Yes, this weekend." As they walked away together, Noah's small hand in his father's, I felt the final pieces of my old life crumble away. Patricia was saying something about appeals and modification hearings, but I wasn't listening. I thought about that night months ago, when I'd felt so alive, so free, walking out of Jasper's apartment building, convinced I was reclaiming my youth. The woman who had made that choice seemed like a stranger now, someone whose priorities and values I could barely recognize. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "How did it go, honey?" I stared at the message, unsure how to summarize the complete destruction of my life in a few words. Finally, I typed, "I lost." Lost what? Everything. Outside the courthouse, the rain had stopped, but the sky remained gray and threatening. I sat in my car in the parking lot, watching other families come and go, other people dealing with their own crises and failures. In a few days, I would see Noah for 4 supervised hours. I would try to explain to an 8-year-old why Mommy could only visit him like a stranger now, why our family was broken, why his world had been turned upside down for my fun challenge. I started the car and drove toward my studio apartment across town, the one I'd rented with what remained of my savings after legal fees. It was a far cry from the suburban home where Noah was probably doing homework right now, where Elias was making dinner and trying to create some semblance of normalcy. As I pulled into the apartment complex, I realized that Judge Chen's final words were still echoing in my mind. "You had that chance, Mrs. Turner. For 8 years, you had that chance." She was right. I'd had every chance to be the wife and mother my family deserved. Instead, I'd chosen excitement over stability, selfishness over sacrifice, and a temporary thrill over permanent love. The fun challenge was over, and I had lost everything that actually mattered. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.